Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, and welcome back. You've tuned in to Women's AM with myself, Hassana, and on our panel today we have Sister Liz, Sister Nazia, and of course our special guest today is Sister Amara. And we mentioned, Sister, that you're a gynecologist and an obstetrician, mashallah. I wanted to ask you about support networks, because often we find for pregnant women, family and, you know, their partners, they play a big part in this, don't you? What's your experience been like with regards to this?
Thank you very much, Hassana. I totally agree. Family plays a major role, and that family not only includes our mothers and sisters, it means partners as well. So partners play a very important role, because there is enough evidence to suggest that the support the partners play in women's pregnancy, it has got such an impact on their bonding with the children, wow. How the women feel during their pregnancy. It is such an important thing. Absolutely. So because healthcare professionals are there to offer their professional support, but 24/7 support by the family, it makes a lot of difference towards everybody, all those sisters who are pregnant and they're expecting to be looked after.
It's interesting to note.
You know, as a health professional, you know, what are some of the major challenges that you face with regards to the ethnic community?
Major challenges. I mean, over the years, there have been so many changes made into the access to the healthcare. What the major challenges we see amongst women from ethnic minorities is the communication. The communication is not only the language barrier they have, because they may not understand English, and most of the healthcare professionals, they are, it's now a multicultural societies, and there are people from all sorts of communities, but still majority could be English speaking, and women, they are either shy or they've got language barrier, for which reason they do not access the healthcare as promptly as they should. So that is one important thing that I think we need to highlight to all our sisters. Absolutely. To access the healthcare when there is need. So
and we'll be touching on that later on, and it'll be great to hear your expertise on the subject at hand. So without further ado, let's go to our next segment now. Let's go straight to her views. Goodbye morning sickness, and hello crazy cravings. Entering the second and third trimester is the most exciting time during pregnancy. It's a time where you first feel your baby move, or when you decide to either find out the gender of your baby or not. It's a time when you start to really notice the changes happening in your body, the physical proof in your own eyes that you have a little miracle growing inside you. So what does our Deen say about this time in pregnancy, and how do we ensure that we do our part in ensuring that we're cultivating a life that will please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Well, today we talk about the changes you'll encounter as a mummy-to-be and what the Quran says about pregnancy. Before we go to the sisters on the panel, we'd love to hear from you. Are you a mother or a mum-to-be? What has your experience been like? You can call in live to the show. The number will be appearing on your screens throughout this segment. I'm going to come to you, Sister Amara, first, just to kind of start this discussion. What are the most important growth aspects and developmental aspects that we see in the second and third trimesters?
I assume most sisters are aware of the pregnancy, that it's divided in 3 trimesters. The first trimester ends at 12 weeks. Second trimester starts from 13 to 27 weeks, and the third trimester from 28 weeks onwards. Talking about the second trimester, I believe, and it's a fact also, that this is the most beautiful part of the entire pregnancy, because the pregnancy starts looking real. Bum is growing, baby is now fully grown they've got senses, they can hear, you can communicate with them, they move, mothers start feeling the movements, which makes them feel great. And this is the time when they feel more energetic also, because there is something to look forward to, because first trimester usually they're either sick, they feel lethargic, and they don't enjoy the pregnancy as much as they enjoy in the second trimester. So, and especially when the bump starts growing, so many changes take place in the body that they experience that beautiful journey that is taking them towards the third trimester, which again becomes a little bit more difficult because they've grown too much and they've put on weight and it's difficult to walk and all that. So I think this is the best part all women deserve to enjoy. And during that, it's, I mean, one would expect that the pregnancy is a normal process. Everybody knows that. But sometimes it doesn't go as we plan it to go. There may be complications in pregnancy. So it is very important for them, for moms, to understand that if they are feeling something which doesn't feel right, they should not hesitate asking, because most are women, they actually are shy in asking questions because they think it might come across like a silly question. There's nothing like silly question. If they're not feeling right, they should communicate either with their midwife, or if they've got access to the hospital there, all these contact details are given to them at the time of booking when the midwives book them. So they should use the numbers.
And seek the advice.
Seek the advice, because it's not about treating the problem. Prevention is the most important thing. So the sooner we pick the problem, the better it is, because we can then manage the pregnancy depending on what's going on.
Absolutely. Sister Nazia, it's so interesting to hear about all of the medical side of things. We know that, of course, there is a lot of growth happening, and there's, you know, a lot of development happening within the womb, and it's incredible that the Quran and the Sunnah actually talk about this, and it goes into some detail, doesn't it?
I do. I've got such amazing stuff on this, actually. Surah Al-Mu'minun, verses 12 to 14, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, certainly we created the human being from extract of clay. Then we made him a drop of seminal fluid lodged in a secure abode. Then we created the drop of fluid as a clinging mass. Then we created the clinging mass as a fleshy tissue. Then we created the fleshy tissue as bones. Then we clothed the bones with flesh. Then we produced him as yet another creature. So blessed is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the best of creators. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, it just describes the things that he has described in terms of creation. It's incredible. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions 7 stages of creation. I'm not going to go into all 7 of them, but just to pull out some of the main points within that. The example of the clinging mass. Now, this is actually the first change in the fertilized ovum. So when it converts and it becomes into like a sort of a clot, and that is the description of the clinging mass. The lumpy flesh tissue, this is actually the zygote cells, which grow by segmentation, and then the mass gradually assumes the shape of the fetus. The other, obviously, the issue, the development of the bones itself. I mean, it's incredible. The other thing that I found amazing, this is taken from Surah, that he created the pairs, male and female, from a fluid drop sperm as it is emitted. Now, this confirms the fact that actually the gender of the baby is determined by the sperm. Now, if you imagine this was information that came 1400 years ago, prior to this, if you look at civilizations, the women used to get the blame, that they're the ones producing the females, but yet this knowledge was sort of taken, you know, 1400 years ago, it was understood that, no, this is the man who produces, you know, it's the sperm that results in the male and female. And there were so many things that were clarified and so many things that were explained. I mean, obviously, microscope technology, that is what actually confirmed it in terms of the rest of the world, you know, the fact that we have the X and the Y chromosome. But this was knowledge that was imparted a long time ago in detail. Also, the fact that on the subject of the ruh, this is something that we now think about, because the Prophet ﷺ said that the seed in the womb of the mother takes 40 days to become a clot. Then after 40 days, it becomes a lump of flesh fetus. When the child is 4 months old, by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 2 angels give the fetus a spirit, ruh, and specify the sustenance, rizq, period of living deeds, amal, and the prosperity and adversity of the child. So at this point, we know that now this is the major factor that comes in is the ruh, and now this is a human being at its fullest, with intelligence, hearing, you know, the point that you mentioned about hearing, sight, all of those things, they actually come into play. Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he fashioned him and breathed into him from his ruh, and he gave him the faculties of hearing, sight, and feeling. Little thanks you give. So this is from Surah Sajda. So it just points to the whole miracle of creation, that it's so complex, so amazing. It's a sign of his creation.
Yes, absolutely. A miracle. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Are you a mother-to-be? Have you experienced this? Do share your stories with us, inshallah. You can call in live to the show. The number is appearing on your screens throughout this segment, inshallah. Sister Liz, you know, this time is also a little bit, perhaps, you know, there's some milestones that occur during this period. We have the scan, which occurs at the end of the first trimester, and then another scan. What are the differences between those 2 scans?
Yeah, Well, most hospitals, all hospitals offer the 2 scans at 12 weeks and 20 weeks, and some even now offer a third a bit later on. The 12-week scan is often called the dating scan because that's when you'll get your expected date of delivery. The 20-week scan is, you know, there's nothing more exciting than going for your 20-week scan and the possibility that you may find out whether you're having a boy or a girl. But obviously the main reason for this scan, which is sometimes called anomaly scan, pronounce that right? Because obviously this is the scan that's going to pick up any abnormalities. They're going to look at various development, you know, how the baby's developing and, you know, make sure everything is okay. Obviously at this stage, as we've said, the baby's growing. It could be between 18 and 22 weeks. So, you know, everything's well developed. The baby will not fit on the scan as a whole anymore. So what the sonographer will do is take certain measurements. And there's certain things that they'll be looking at and measuring, you know, the shape and structure of the baby's head, the baby's abdominal wall, the baby's heart, looking at the two chambers, and the 2 top and the 2 bottom chambers, the baby's stomach. While the baby's in the womb, it will swallow a certain amount of amniotic fluid, which will show in the stomach as a black bubble, so this is something else that they'll be looking out for. Kidneys, arms, legs, fingers and toes, although they don't count them at this stage, but just checking that basically everything is there. And there's a lot of if there's any problems, any issues, there's a lot of things that can be picked up at this scan. For example, the absence of the top of the head. There's a 98% chance that this will be spotted at your 20-week scan. Cleft lip. High chance of this will be picked up if it's occurring. Cleft palate is a bit more difficult to pick up. Missing or short limbs, defect of the spinal cord. You know, there's lots of things that they're going to be, you know, lots of issues that they're going to be looking for. And if any of these are picked up, then there are further scans that they can do to kind of more pin down what the issues are and obviously advise you accordingly.
Very detailed, isn't it?
It is.
It's incredible.
Amazing stuff.
I mean, Sister Amara, let's come to you. I mean, is it necessary for a doctor to follow the pregnancy? What's the role of the obstetrician in all of this?
It's absolutely not necessary that an obstetrician has to be involved, because pregnancy, as I said earlier, it's a normal process all women must experience. And so where do the obstetricians get involved is decided at the time of booking. So when the midwives actually, on the initial booking appointment, which happens during the first trimester, they do a risk assessment based on the family history, past history of other childbirths, any medical illnesses. So the idea is to pick up any risk factors that may complicate the pregnancy. So at that time, they make a decision to whether to call the pregnancy low risk or a high risk. If it is a high risk pregnancy, which doesn't mean that you're a risky pregnant woman, it just means that there are risk factors that may complicate the pregnancy, in which situation they are referred for a obstetric opinion. So in which case they go to the hospital, where the obstetrician would review the entire case and will make a plan to how to manage the pregnancy. It doesn't always mean that they will be managed in the hospital, but a decision will be made on how to look after. Because some women may have had a birth by cesarean section before, so, but I mean, sometimes the concept is that if you've had one cesarean, you will always have a cesarean. That is absolutely not correct. So the obstetrician role would be to review the previous case notes and decide on whether it is safe to offer a vaginal birth in the current pregnancy or not. And then if they say it's all fine, then the midwives, they are quite capable of looking after these pregnancies as well, as long as there is an informed decision made and documented in the notes. And women are offered all the information that they are supposed to know to access the professionals when there is a need for that.
Absolutely. It's really interesting to hear about the role of the doctor, and of course the midwife does play a huge part in this. Sister Nazia, what's your take on what